Alrighty, good evening and welcome to Nycos Nightly. I'm your host, Game Master Jay, and tonight we are looking at a kind of a refresher on where our adventure groups are this week. We're also going to talk about some new ways to include magic trinkets in your game and how magic works within the system, even to the point of going over the 9 forms of magic in the world of Nycos. So why don't we get started? Okay, so with the group Heralds of the Change, this is the private group for my Patreon sponsors. So if you want to be a part of this group and you want to be a player, you simply join our Patreon group and then you get an invite and can actually play in this group. In this case, they are operating out of the area of the Farthfell. They are in the town of Farthfell itself, and they've been involved with an attempt to find a way into the realm of the which one are they looking for right now? Plane of Shadows. So they're looking for Penumbra. So they got involved with a group that were doing some mining beneath the mountain nearby, and they had heard that there was a place called Shadow's Flight that might be their key entry point, and so they have infiltrated, and in the process they've gotten to meet a couple of new non-player characters by the name of Alessander Hegg and his good friend Gooberbury. And in the case of Alessander, he is a packman, which means he's an elephant person. And Gooberbury is a simian, which is a monkey subspecies. And the two of them, as SecGen, have been working together for some time and have kind of shared with the players the ropes on how to operate within the mining operation. So as they approached the area, they did discover an area that was marked as a no entrance zone that they were supposed to stay out of. And of course, player characters being what they are, they had to figure out a way to achieve their quotas for mining and still get the opportunity to explore. And so as they did so, they discovered some rather odd objects, hexagonal seeming crypts or coffins or something along that line, although they could not open them or devise what was within them. They did see these glowing hexagonal, for lack of a better term, columns that were laying in this off-limits area, so they were clearly being obscured for some reason. And moments later, while they were having a discussion with some of the other NPCs in the cavern structure, they discovered that there were conversations about people disappearing in the hallways, which of course piqued their interest as well. And meanwhile, the rest of the adventuring group, who were not actually in on the infiltration, pursued studies of the area outside of the mining operation and discovered a set of tracks which they determined to possibly be of Eldrin origin, and were further verified as such when they discovered markings on a couple of trees. And apparently these two trees that were so marked were indicating the use of some form of magical transportation or teleportation. And the players were unsuccessful in determining exactly how they were traveling or who they were, but they did get the opportunity to see the individuals. And they've decided that the collective needs to do one more survey into the mines before they make their official run, if you will, on the Shadow's Flight location. That brings us up to speed on what's going on with the Heralds of the Change. So now let's switch over and talk a bit about Strangers in the Strange Land. And the Strangers in the Strange Land group are in the city of Potiphar and are endeavoring to free prisoners behind a slave trade pit in the Everdark, the area below the city. and they have recovered many of those that have been listed on the inventory as missing, although they haven't found all of them. In particular, they freed Coriston Pike and Maple, two principal NPCs that were among the kidnapped. And they also found how truly vile one of the bad guys is. Atherton Ving was defined to be downright horrible, and this channel being PG as it is, I'm not going to go into the details, but suffice it to say that Atherton Ving has been identified and targeted as a despicable villain worthy of all kinds of justifiable violence, shall we say. Additionally, the other kidnap victims that have been recovered identified the Greylings as being the persons who had kidnapped them. And in the process, the players did actually recover one of the master keys lost by Kagan Gelf at some point in the past, so that's also a really good thing. Now, they were forced by circumstance into an early conflict with Casmogen, the villain, and in a very amazing turn of events, the players did succeed in overcoming Casmogen and actually endeavored, whether by intent or by accident, that Casmogen did reach his demise, even as the rest of the slave revolt succeeded. And so with that, the players were able to return to Potiphar with all of the rescued personnel, and in particular one that was unexpectedly rescued, who was Tarim, who is one of the critical members of the Shacklebone, which we will go into at some point in the future. Finally, our Skiffborn group, which will be playing actually tomorrow at the game store. This is their ongoing story to this point, and they have been continuing to explore the area known as Landovia and discovered a pathway which seemed to lead into an alternate realm. They have found ancient gods imprisoned in these ruins, who claim to be from beyond the realms and to be these great and powerful beings. Of course, their inability to liberate themselves calls into question whether they are indeed what they claim to be. But the issue with these is that the coordination between them is that they are trying to get the players to help liberate them, to give them their freedom and return them to power. And the players now realize that in order for this to be actually going on, they must be in a temporal schism. They must be in some place between the times, between the iterations, and they are concerned with this. But while they're there, they do feel an actual tangible reality shift based on something that another player group had done prior that had triggered this. And so therefore now they're in a position where they are uncertain whether they should aid these powerful beings or not. And they have decided, in order to determine that they're going to approach the basalt ziggurat, this large stone temple-like building, and determine what they're going to do. And then, of course, this story is ongoing, and we're going to be handling the rest of the details for tomorrow, so we will leave that to be continued. All right, I'm going to be foreshortening the show for tonight. I want to thank you for being here, and we will see you next time